Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we are discussing one of the most versatile watches in the Rolex catalog in its sportiest form. This is the Rolex Oyster Perpetual Datejust 41, reference 126300 in stainless steel. The watch is 41 millimeters in diameter by 11.8 millimeters thick. It measures 47.5 millimeters from lug to lug, and if you include the end links to the Oyster bracelet, the total distance across the wrist is 51.3 millimeters, with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. The Datejust 41 came out in precious and mixed metal for 2016, and in 2017 for full steel. Now on my wrist, you can see it's a broad watch. Being over 51 millimeters from end link to end link, it has a sports watch-like stance. It is thin though, very slim, with a sloped bezel, so it'll slide underneath the cuff, but because of its breadth across the wrist, I recommend it for a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference or larger. Smaller than that, you're going to want to look at a smaller Datejust. Now, I mentioned this is a very sporty take on the Datejust. That starts with the Oyster bracelet. The timepiece, of course, can be ordered with the Jubilee, but the three-link Oyster shared with the Daytonas, the GMTs, the Sea Dwellers, the Submariners gives this watch a more rugged appearance. It's a three-link design with a integrated end link. It has a little bit of a taper to it, a polished center, satin shoulders, polished outer faces, removable links fixed by screws. We have a clasp here that uses a pivoted lift lock system that's spring-loaded. And then there's a beak and a hook. These two parts come together and it latches shut. So you don't just pull it open, you do have to unlatch it to open it. The material inside is thick gauge steel, fully finished, high polish. We get a 5 millimeter easy link tool-free adjustment system. So it's the equivalent of snapping in, snapping out, adding or removing one full-sized link. You can also see, probably best from this angle, we'll do our best to show this, get the light. There are several divots drilled inside the clasp, and you can use a strap tool to move the bracelet in or out to change the anchoring point of the bracelet in the clasp. So that's the third way you can size this watch. Links, easy link, and those three divots. The case is beautifully fluid and handsome, all of high polish, curved on its sides, tapered on its ends. Rolex has its own foundry. It makes its own cases, bracelets, and clasps, just as it makes its own dials and movements. And Rolex uses a steel that's fairly rare in watchmaking, 904L steel, which is exceptionally resistant to corrosion, especially in the presence of salt, such as sweat or sea salt. It doesn't need to be rinsed. Still advisable to rinse, but like Zinn U-boat style, it does not need to be rinsed after salt exposure. We have a screw-down twin-lock crown, Oyster case back, 100-meter water resistance. Again, on the sportiness of this watch, here, not only do we have the Oyster bracelet, the steel case, the conical bezel, we have a fully loomed dial. And that's very sporty because not every Datejust 41 dial is loomed. Logo, hands, and indices, all white gold, 18 karat to resist tarnish and oxidation over time. Let's take a quick look. You can see Rolex's proprietary blue chromalite lume material. The dial is a lovely sunburst metallic blue, and inside the case we have Rolex manufacturer caliber 3235. So the big changes from previous 3135 are the replacement of the rotor's jeweled staff with a bearing, a ball bearing that's more shock tolerant, and the replacement of the escapement with a new chronergy system, which is created with Liga, a bigger mainspring inside a thinner barrel, and the power reserve goes from 48 to 70 on this new 3235. We have hacking seconds. We have a quick set date. It beats at 8 beats per second. It pivots on 31 joules. It does feature a full balance bridge and a free sprung balance for shock tolerance. It features a new niobium zirconium blue oxidized hairspring. So niobium zirconium is very anti-magnetic. Rolex calls this parachrom blue. That hairspring is also shaped by hand into a Breguet overcoil, which means in virtually any position on the wrist or otherwise, the watch will keep consistent time. And the watch does go through the COSC chronometer certification as a bare movement. The chronometer certified bare movement is then cased up and is a fully assembled watch tested in 6 positions to run no worse than -2 + 2 seconds per day. Rolex calls that the superlative chronometer standard. It goes above and beyond. Rolex even makes the shock protection, Paraflex, as well as the lubricants used in its movements. So this movement is all Rolex. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.